Life Check Yourself with Jen Crowley. From heartache to soulmate, Jen's story of rediscovery and romance. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Life Check Yourself. This one is going to be in the books, go down in history. I often am blessed to be able to have conversations with women that have worked with me and talk about their life before and after. Jen is here. I'm going to tell you about her in a minute. But she also brought her fiance. So we're going to hear the man's perspective. So stay tuned, get your popcorn, get ready for some fun. Let me introduce you to Jen Crowley. She is a woman who understands the journey of love, loss, and rediscovery. She lost her husband, her soulmate, Tyke, to cancer in 2015. How old were you, Jen?
I was 36.
36. Probably not what she planned.
Nope.
And so not only did she have to recover from that, but she had to then pull it together, and she faced the challenge of navigating through dating again. Felt obviously just like you feel, overwhelmed, very uncertain. And then she finally acquiesced, which we'll talk about, and realized she needed to get online. And she came to me and we worked together. And in our coursework together, she learned a lot about herself and the qualities she needed in a relationship to feel fulfilled. She went online. Fast forward, Jen has found the next love of her life, Jeff. I wish I had an applause button because I'd be like, Jeff. We're going to talk about this, but he's everything she hoped for and more. And they're building a new life full of love, laughter, and shared goals. And she is a testament to the belief that the right person is out there when you're truly ready to find them. She, now that she's retired from her dating job, she spends her days as a third grade teacher. By night, she educates people about low tox living in her attempt to help the world be cancer-free one day. She's written 2 books. She's outdoors all the time. And I'm sure you're as excited as I am to hear her story. So welcome, guys and gals.
Thanks. Hello.
Jeff, I want to know, what did Jen say? How did she get you on this show?
She really just asked, and obviously I appreciate your work with her because it led us here to be together. So it was the least that I could do.
That's so nice. I love that. I've met like a few of the guys that my clients have partnered up with, and they say what you just said, which is like, I don't know what you did, but thank you for making her so that I could find her. So I just check. So Jen, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about your story and, what it was like before, you came to us, and why did you, what was your bottom moment where you decided to get help?
Well, like you said, kind of in the intro there, I lost Tyke in 2015 to cancer, and we had been together for almost 8 years, married for 4.5 of those. Of course, I never thought I'd have to be in the dating world again. I never needed online dating before him. We actually met at an Appalachian Mountain Club meeting, a social event. And so it was kind of a natural way to meet over shared interests. And I even said to him one time, like, I'm so glad I don't have to date anymore, and I've just found the love of my life.
Aw.
So I know. And so when he died, I honestly knew that I would find another partner. I just knew I wasn't meant to be alone for the rest of my life. I didn't really know when that would be, obviously, but it was important to me that I did find someone. And I was lucky enough to actually have 2 longer term relationships after he died with 2 guys that I met through friends. So I still didn't have to do the online thing. And then when that second relationship ended, I was like, okay, I'm out of known people. Like, there's no connections to anybody. Like, no one else knows anyone that would be a good fit. So I was like, I'm gonna have to get online. And I thought, like anything, there must be a strategy to do this better or faster or more effectively. And Something came across my email. I don't know how. I think I wasn't following you or, dating with dignity or anything. So it must have been someone, a partner, something.
Yeah, like
And
someone mailed for us, right?
yes. And it was like, hey, if you want to, see 15-minute call or whatever, quick coaching call to see if you'd be a good fit for us. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything to lose. So I talked to someone and I was like, I want to know how to online date. Like that's what I want to know how to do. I figured rather than me trying to figure it out on my own, go to some people that, have a better experience with this. So that's kind of how I ended up with you. And that was in April of 2022.
Oh wow.
Um,
Time really flies.
I know it does.
I just want to highlight this story because I think that people get very fed up with online dating, and I totally understand. If you want to argue for the limitations of it, I will hear you and I will agree with anyone who does it. I think it's really, I remember when we first met and you were like, I've just met people like in real life. Like, yeah, you were like, I've searched under the rocks. I've like gone into the grocery stores. Like there's nobody left. Um, what do you think was the hardest part about deciding to really commit to getting serious and getting help about this? Like what did you have, what kind of mindset did you have to overcome for that?
Um, I think it was more, or it was mostly to me because it was new. I think there was like that kind of fear of the unknown a little bit. And then also I was really afraid of like being lied to, like the fake persona that you were going to find online. And, the guy who wasn't real or, says he's this thing. And I was worried about trying to figure out how you would know that it was a real person, and that he was truthful. So, um, I guess that was kind of it. That's probably, a lot of what drove me to figure out how to do it too, is because I wanted to learn that. Um, but I think just it was a new platform for me. You hear all the horror stories, whether you
Right.
watch it in movies or you have friends that do it, you just hear everything of like, oh, he lied to me, or she wasn't real, or they didn't look like their picture, and just all of that. And I was like, there's got to be a way to like cut through all of that without having to do it for years.
I think I applaud you for that because I always say like if someone will let me get my hands on them before they get like traumatized, right, from online dating, like it's much easier sort of go because you don't have as much negative experiences.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I could share. Let's see if I can share my screen here. Um, let's see if I can do it because I wanted to show everyone your date year profile picture. Um, let's see. Oh, here it is. Share. There she is. So one, and I have all these great photos. Jeff's like, I remember that
I
girl,
sure do.
right? Was there any of these I don't know which ones you posted, but what spoke to you about these photos, Jeff?
Well, they clearly look professionally done.
Yep.
So that's part of it. So if you have professional photos, something in your head makes it seem like, okay, this person's serious about it's not just like, someone snapped an iPhone picture at a bar somewhere when you weren't looking and caught you laughing or something like that. There was thought process behind that. And
And so you were like, wait, she's taking it seriously.
correct.
And I'm curious because I don't get to interview the boyfriend and husbands very often. What was your experience of dating online before you met Jen?
Yeah, so I mean, I did it like way, way long ago. Like before I was actually married, then divorced. So, but before I was married, I tried, and I didn't find the right people. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
So going back on, I honestly didn't have super high hopes, and I was on
Okay.
for a month, and Jen was actually my first date before my membership ran out, and I had to grab her phone number. I'm like, hey, my membership's running out. I need your cell phone number if you want to keep talking. And thankfully, she texted me like a day later, and here we are. But I had a much easier experience than
Yes.
That's so great. I love that. So you looked at the photos. Now, this the reason why I wanted to kind of tee that up is because one of the things that I've been talking about is really counterintuitive to what Jeff was saying. Is that I think there's this belief or approach to online dating that so many people have now, as if it's like it's not cool to care, right? Like you're not supposed to, like, people don't go on there and they're like, this is serious, I'm taking it seriously, I want this to work. They're just sort of like, ugh, whatever, if I have to, like you said, like, oh, my, my brother-in-law says that's a cute picture of me, let me just, spend 5 minutes on it. And I really am glad that you shared that, because I believe like you want to put the attention towards finding a partner, because that's what you're trying to do. If you're doing it seriously, like to take it seriously, and there's kind of no shame in that. Okay, so let's talk another part of the process, and then we'll talk about the big picture. But one of the things that is really important in our dating with dignity process is what I call your non-negotiables, or they're these 5 core values you're looking for in a partner. And they're really hard. They're harder than people think to put that together. So Jen, you had Tyke. You met him when you were really young. Like, how old were you when you met?
Well, I was 28 when I met him, so
Okay.
not super young, but
young, right? So under 30. And my guess is you didn't really have like non-negotiables when you met him. You guys just vibed and you had common values and goals. Yeah.
yeah, we just instantly connected. There was something that we both were like, oh, he actually was dating someone at the time, and our now friend had put us together, the 3 of us on a team, to play Cranium that night. It was like a social outing, and unbeknownst to her, and Tyke and I kept guessing each other's things. You got to build with the clay and draw the picture and everything, and people actually started accusing us of cheating because we were just on the same wavelength with that. So we kind of met like that. And I had 2 kind of longer term relationships, but I would say why they didn't work was just, I just didn't feel like they were the right person. Like whenever someone would say, oh, when are you going to get engaged? When are you going to get married? It was like, I don't know. And I thought that's my sign that they're not right. But I wouldn't say I had clarity exactly of what wasn't right or what I needed more of from them at that point.
So when we went through that process and you were looking at your non-negotiable, those 5 things, and they're like a rudder, right? Like when you're dating, we want our clients to make it way easier to be discerning without also being picky.
Yep.
So what was it like for you to come up with those? Was it easy? Was it hard? How did, if it was more challenging, what did you learn from that process, if you remember?
I think it was kind of in the middle for me. And I think some of that was I had that amazing relationship with Tyke. So there were the parts of that I knew and loved and knew were important to me because I had already seen and felt them. So then I could put some of those in, I had a perspective of those. I remember the part, which I actually think is really helpful, where we didn't just have to say the non-negotiable. We had to kind of say the 5 more things, like go in a little
Yes.
more depth. And we had to say like, so what would he say and do that would show that? And I thought that was helpful rather than just having this checkbox of lists of things to say, oh, he has to have this, this, and this. It was like, here's what I would be looking for him to do and to say to show that he has this quality. And I thought that was what made it different than just make your list of things you want in a person, with that. So I thought that was really helpful to me as I started to go on dates with people and started to look at what they said and how they acted and how did they respond to your texts or showing up late or something happening. How did they reschedule? You started to look at everything they said and do kind of with a lens of like, is it fitting in with my non-negotiables? And I think the guy I dated right before Jeff, we had a lot in common. There were some things I think that weren't quite right, but I actually added to my list a little bit. I think he was like the clarifying point that
Love
I
that.
said, oh, he didn't have these two things. And then when Jeff showed up, he had those two things and everything else and more. And it was pretty clear early on that it was like, oh, this guy's got it. This one feels right.
That's so fun. So I pulled up your non-negotiables.
Hope I
Uh,
remember them.
well, and I really think this is an important thing because I think, most people who are listening to this, they're like, oh, I have this idea of what I want him to look like or be like, or how much money he makes, or, there's chemistry, or he has my shared common interest.
Mhm.
And then you don't really know those things until you actually connect with someone. So one of the reasons why I make you come up with like, so how does he show up in his life if he has these things, is because what I really want for people to do is to look for these things consistently over time. Because
Mhm.
anybody can be like healthy and funny and like say they value connection and have good communication for like a week.
Yep.
Right. And so
Yep.
this is really like how can you put them through this filter? So do you mind if we go over them and I share
Sure.
them? Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing you had was health, wellness, and fitness. Um, and so I'm wondering, like, and you had these 5 things. How, like, was that something that you just saw right away? That you're like, oh, Jeff and I have the same values, or he believes this is a core value of his. Like,
Um, yeah, I think he had something even in his profile that was about like living healthy, and it kind of tied with, he said he liked being outdoors, which is another one of my non-negotiables. And then it might have even been on our first date where we talked about the nutritionist, did we? So I've been seeing like a functional nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist who's like her main goal is to like heal you with food and bigger story, but she's been really helpful to me. And Jeff and I talked about her really early on, and I shared some of the little things that she had given me. And he started going to see her like within weeks. He was like, I
ah,
need that. He's like, I just need a coach to help me. Um, and I think we just talked about being healthy, like being active and walking and exercising. It kind of came out, I think, pretty early on that we both had a shared interest in that. And it's like we discovered actually that we love cooking together. And so then that came out very early on too, of like, okay, we don't want to be just cooking mozzarella sticks and fried ravioli, we want to be making healthier dinners, and that came out right away together. Um, with that. So that was one way that showed up.
I love this. Okay, so Jeff, question for you. What was different about Jen from maybe the other women that you had dated? Like, was it something that was obvious right away? Like, did it stand out like instantly? But yeah, what was the essence of Jen that just really made you decide like I want to keep seeing this person?
It's an easy answer for me because, I was on our first date. We talked about, what it means to be in a relationship. I was freshly off a divorce, like freshly, like weeks off of a divorce. And so there were very specific things. I didn't have like non-negotiables in my head, but after hearing what, Jen working with you, I kind of did. I just didn't know I was doing it. And, one of the things was that like the 50-50 marriage, whatever, it can't be like, and for me, mine was a lot of like 95 5 90 0. Like there
Right.
were times where I felt the zero part of it. And so, that was really important to me because there are some things that I wanted to do and that I needed someone that would support me in those things, not question in a way of productivity, not question plant seeds of doubt type of deal. And the
Right.
first date we went on, we talked about that, and Jen mentioned something about, she said, and I always joke about it now, but she said, "Oh yeah, it's the 80-80 marriage." And in my head, I'm like, "Uh-oh, does she not know how to do math? Because that doesn't equal 100." But obviously, then it was we talked, and it's each person has to be willing to give 80% always at any given time. And as soon as she said that, I kind of knew it, at least the relationship part of it, she gets it. And that has proven true over and over again through the last 15 months that we've been together, where I've undergone some changes career wise and everything, and she's been right there with me the entire, even on the nutrition side of things. Like, I that matters to me, and she's been pushing me in a positive way on the nutrition side. So it came out very, very early. One of my things that was like, oh well, at least from a relationship standpoint, it's not something that I was used to, but I know it was something that I wanted. And, saying it on the first date, it's like, okay, well, that totally makes sense to me. So hopefully that bears true, and it obviously has.
I love the clarity, because I think so many people, especially women, they're going to go out on a date and they're sort of like afraid to say what they want, because there's this idea like, oh, he's cute, he's nice, like he has his teeth. I used to joke about that. Oh, he has his teeth,
Right?
because I did get set up on a date once with a guy who had no teeth, front teeth, but so that's a story for another day. But the idea that this is a really important thing, and that you can kind of see that like right from the jump, um and that you're asking about it, right? And so I'm glad that you answered that way, because I've always told my clients, like, the right guy is like interested, inspired, attracted to someone who's like, oh, they thought about this, they've put effort into it. Like, he doesn't know that she took a class, but she's like, this is what I'm looking for. So do you remember at all, and I don't know the
Mhm.
answer because I have to look at your non-negotiables again, but you did have one of your non-negotiables was around connection and relationship. So was knowing this 80/80 thing, like, was that at all part of your process when you envision, like, what does that look like if this is their core value?
I think so. That's actually a book that I heard on another podcast, and when I heard it, it kind of clarified something for me, because I'm a giver and Jeff's a giver, so I think we work well together in that sense, because we also appreciate and are grateful and say thank you for all the little things that we do for each other. And part of that book is the 80% is radical generosity. It's like you give to your relationship not because it's a tit for tat, or like I took the trash out so he should wash the dishes kind of thing. It's like I took the trash out because it's going to make my partner's life easier. And I think we both live like that, and to have that complementary style is really nice, because like I said, every little thing he does, I'm like, thank you for doing that, because I recognize it and I appreciate it. And I remember when we were texting before we met, I don't know if we'll get into like the profile and stuff, but
Yeah.
Jeff had mentioned in his profile, like divorced or recently divorced, because you can click buttons on Match now that say those things. And then he said, just looking to see what's out there, which is, I would have normally stayed way far away from that.
Right. So what
I would have,
happened?
because I know, like, I want someone serious. I want someone who wants a relationship. But I think I gave him a heart because I thought he was cute, and he
Right.
messaged me back. And I think he probably mentioned something about, I like these things, that you mentioned in your profile. And I was flat out right in the beginning. I know you said you were divorced. Are you interested in having a relationship and a family again? Because that is a priority for me. And he was like, I totally am. And so I was like, okay, I can keep talking with this guy, because he said that, at least in the
Yeah.
writing then.
And that came out first date. And for me, so coming from a relationship where the communication was not only not good, but part of it, like if you ask Jen, she'd say I'm a great communicator. If you ask my ex, she'd say that I was an awful communicator. And we've talked about this, Jen and I, as we've driven up to, New Hampshire to go hike or whatever. It's the reason why it's easy to communicate is because I have a safe space to communicate.
Mm,
Meaning I'm not getting judged for anything. I just get to talk, and she listens and gives her opinion, and there's no like, well, why, like, you this that. And that came out the first date of, it was for me, I feel like my prior relationship was, it was immature. That's what I experienced. And for someone on the first date to come out and be like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, if that's a deal breaker, totally okay. We can have a nice dinner and go our separate ways. It's like, for me, that was like, oh my God, is that what like normal communication feels like? Where you just say things to each other and you can trust that the other person that isn't, you're not going to feel judged, and it's just, you're just having, and that's where being honest about that stuff up front made me instantly realize that, okay, from a communication standpoint, I have someone on the maturity level that I'm looking for.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so let's see if I can do my little show and tell again. We'll see if it'll work because I
And I
think that's
remember I remember saying to him in text, it sounds like you weren't getting your needs met in your previous relationship. And he was like, yeah, you nailed it. And I think that's how the 80/80 conversation came about. And then we talked about it on our first date.
I love this. Okay, so if you could see this, this is your Jen's document, but you were very clear. He wants to have a family. He wants a fulfilling marriage, kind of respectful. And this is what, whether you do this with me or you do it on your own, like having this list and then
Mhm.
being able to go on that date and not feel like bad that you have thought this through. She's got the photos. She's come up with this list, not just an arbitrary list. She understands what that looks like. And now on the date, she's like saying it in a way that is, and this is really important. And Jeff shared his experience of that from a place of like this open, soft energy, not like, so just so you know, like, you wrote this on your profile and I don't want to waste my time, which a lot of people would do, right? Because they're coming from that protective place. So
Mhm.
what was your belief about yourself, your belief about dating, your belief about the possibility, going through this process that allowed you to make that request or state your preference and do it from like an open place and not a like judgy place where Jeff would have felt like, whoa.
I think some of it came from Tyke and I were in the starting our family stages when his cancer diagnosis came. So we had to put that on pause. And it's one thing, it's not a regret, but it's one thing I'm sad that we don't have is that I don't have any little beings that are half him. Like there's no legacy of him in a human form, which is also, which we can talk about later, why I published his book, is that is kind of, his child that gets to live on in a way.
Yeah.
But I knew that that was something I wanted. And after going through the loss of your partner, for me, I was all alone. I mean, I had family and friends, but there was no family directly connected with that. And I thought I don't want to do that again either. That's another reason why I want a family. Like I want kids, and Tyke and I wanted that together, and I still wanted that. So and then as I was aging, I was 36 when he died. So here I am, like past 40, trying to date. I'm like, I have to be clear about this because I don't have the luxury of waiting 4.5 years like Tyke and I did to plan to start a family. So a lot of times I would do it straight up in the text. I mean, it said it in my profile, wanted a
Yep.
family. I would only look at guys that said they were open to that. And I would say, oh, you have 2 kids. Are you open to having more? Because I don't know if being a step parent is enough for me. Like I would say that right out in the text. And I would say, it's fine if not, but that's important to me. And that helped me weed out some of them. And I got quite a few guys that already had kids that said, yeah, I'd be open to having more. I love kids. And I got a few that said, I'm done being a baby dad. Like, my kids are grown up a little bit, so I don't want that. And I would say, great, good luck to you. And I think I put it out there just frankly, but like you said, I don't know, maybe it was the tone. A lot of it's texting, so I guess there wasn't tone, but I guess I just put it out there honestly and said, it's important to me and I don't want to waste either of our time if it's not important to you or if it's not something you want. And quite a few guys I had said, thank you for your honesty about things. So, and I think you find a lot of dishonesty or a lot of misrepresentation you can online. So I think just being upfront about it was helpful.
Yeah, and I think again, the more clear you are, the more you're in a place of abundance, the more you
Hmm.
have like, you have options. Like someone can be really cute and really nice and have chemistry. If they're not looking for what you're looking for, I
Yep.
always say my favorite word is next. Um, so that's so amazing. So when you guys got together, um and decided to kind of be exclusive, uh was that easy, Jeff? Were you just like, let's not see other people? Was it how? Because I'm people are always asking me like, I like him, or I'm waiting for him to do it. Sometimes clients are like, oh well, I want to tell him I love him, but does the woman have to say it first? How did that go down for you guys?
It was pretty easy for me. I've never been a, I don't think either of us have ever been a play the field type of people. It's, and that's part of what attracts us to each other is that, the commitment to other people, and that shines with friends and family and everything like that. But I think it was our third date, I think, where I was actually getting ready to get on a plane to go on a trip with a friend, and we had dinner, third date, and our all three of our dates were kind of closed down the place that we were at.
And within 1 week.
Yeah, and it was right. It was all pretty quickly, but um, I don't remember exactly how it came up. Although I remember I think we were both dancing around it, and I think I said something to the effect of, well, I'm not looking for anyone else, or something
Yeah.
something like that. I forget exactly what I said, but I think we both felt that, and we really didn't need to have a, hey, are we exclusive conversation. I think we just kind of we saw where how I guess how quickly we kind of connected, and we saw the potential, and I think we just both kind of understood that, yeah, this is where it's headed. So, you know, that's it. Both of our profiles had like expired, so it's like, yeah, we're not going back
I
on.
had to cancel mine
Yeah.
because I bought like 6 months at that time.
Right.
And here I was. So I got we can go through the whole timeline if you want, but like I had gotten back on right after Christmas of 23. So it was
Okay.
like early January of 2024, and it was my first round back on. So I had like I followed the strategy, messaged a lot of people, get down to a couple of them. So there was like 3 or 4 in the pool, including Jeff. And I had gone on dates with 2 of them, or 2 or 3 of them, and then had a date with him, and then successive dates with him. And so I ended up having to cancel my membership after that because I was like, yeah, it was a couple of weeks, not even a couple weeks, but you're like, okay, I want to be sure. And someone else just asked us this question too, and we're like, I don't think we actually had a conversation like let's be exclusive, but like Jeff just said, I don't think we needed to. Like there wasn't zero question from either of us, I think.
I think the only time we actually had a conversation was when I proposed. I think that was the cementing of, I guess we are exclusive, but we've
Oh
never
my gosh, that's
actually.
great. Wait, Jen, did you know Jeff was going to propose, or was it a surprise?
Well, we started talking over the summer, I would say late summer, kind of dancing around the idea of like, okay, we're gonna move in together. Like, do we want to get married? Kind of, and we started talking about it, and then we started like actually looking at wedding places and starting to think about timing. And we did it a little differently, I guess, because we wanted to use the jeweler that I had used before up in Burlington, Vermont, because we wanted to custom make our rings.
Yep.
And so we went up to see him to make our rings before there was an actual, like, hey,
Yeah.
will you marry me moment. And then because they're custom made, they took a little while. So we actually announced to people that we were engaged before we had any rings. Before we had a ring. So everyone's saying, let's see the ring. And I'm like, you can't because we don't have it yet.
Right. It's being made.
So there was just kind of I don't know, a weekend where we're like, well, do we want to just say it's a
Yeah.
thing and tell people? And so we had a friend take some pictures of us on the rail trail, and we kind of made a public announcement of it. So there wasn't really a moment of proposal. But then when the rings came in, they came in right before Christmas. And so Jeff, we moved like 5 days before Christmas into a house we just bought, and Jeff set up the Christmas tree. It was like the first thing we had in the house, and I came home from work and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you put up the tree. This is amazing." And the ring had come in, and so then he kind of officially proposed in front of the Christmas tree in our new house.
Oh my gosh, that's so romantic. I remember, when we first started working together, and at that time, like, there were ladies that are a little ahead, and people, and
Mhm.
I always say, like, the biggest problem you're gonna have is you're gonna kind of have to juggle it. And I remember you being very kind of skeptical, if I remember correctly. And then you got into it and you're like, dang,
Yeah.
I have some choices here.
There was a lot of choices. I think when you do the professional pictures and when you write your profile the way that the course kind of guided us to, it attracts a lot of people who are serious and not serious sometimes. But I think I remember you guys saying it will naturally weed out some people. And I think that it did, because the length of the profile
Yep.
does do that. But for Jeff's case, and this is why I thought, oh, maybe he should come on, because
Yeah.
when I told him we were going to do this, and he was like, I remember reading your profile and being like, that's me. Yep, 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 yep. I want all that. And I was like, that's what it was designed to do. The right guy was going to see himself in that. And then the pictures too. And I had seen one guy online with professional pictures, and I instantly went to his profile just because his pictures were professional. And we went on 2 dates, and he said, I got catfished once and I realized I was fishing in the wrong pond. So he went and got some professional pictures taken for himself. So I think the profile does elevate, what you're looking for. And you still get some of those
Yeah, of
comments. And of
course.
course, the pictures look great. So then you always get the guys that are just like, hey, beautiful. But I think the serious people recognize the serious profile and say, hey, this is someone I want to take a look at.
And for me, I
Yeah.
think I mean, obviously the pictures are important. There needs to be a physical attraction, but the written part of the profile was what was that was the outlier in a good way for me. And it
Tell
was
me
like
about
just
that. Yeah, tell me,
it
like, what made it special for you and what did you notice that was
well
different?
because I know I mean, I wrote my profile. I mean, I think everyone likes writing about themselves, but my profile was longer. It wasn't like, yeah, I like sports and, let's go do this and whatever. It was long, it was thoughtful. I just got out of a frustrating 10-year relationship where you kind of feel like, oh crap, I just left 10 years of my life behind. What do I do? Like, you don't want to mess around anymore. So
Yeah.
you just, there's nothing to lose by being honest and writing. So when you see a profile written in the same manner, the same level of honesty, putting things out there, and clearly someone took time to write it versus the profiles that had 4 sentences of I like going to the beach and this and that and whatever.
Yeah, I
It's
like
it
to dress up, but I also like
right.
to get down with the jeans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. I like to go to the beach. I like to travel, and I like to have fun. It's like, okay, well, so does everybody. But like having something about like an actual relationship, I think obviously attracted, there was a physical attraction, but the the part for me where I knew it's easy to say now, I guess, but I'm going to say it like I knew it then. I knew Jen was different. Was the written part of her profile is what stood out to me the most.
Oh, I love that. Because it says in the beginning, I'm calling to you, that intelligent, playful, big hearted man, to join me in this adventure called life. And you were like, that's me.
Pretty much.
I
Yep.
love it. Well, it was very specific, and I do coach my people to be
Hmm.
very, very specific. Um, and one of the hardest things, about it for people when they're coaching is, I'm like, okay, well, you like to hike. Where are you hiking? What are you
Hmm.
doing? Like, what are you doing on the weekends? Where are you going? And yours had, all of that, right? Like, we're going on a hike in the Whites. We're, exploring parks in New England. You're what about this one, Jeff? Some nights you show off your grilling skills and I'm your side dish queen.
Yeah, but it's funny, but the cooking thing, it's such a small, it's a thing everyone has to do two or
Right.
three times a day, whatever. And so you can turn it into a chore and say, okay, who's got to cook this? Or you could say, we want to be healthy. Let's find something to cook. And you turn it, it's like Jen said, it's one of the most fun things that we did as our relationship sort of evolved from couple dates to something much more serious was cooking together. It's like some of the best times we have. So even seeing that, like it's fun, it's funny, and it's true. That was the most important thing. It's when you want to write something thoughtful, but it also needs to be true. And in Jen's has been.
Oh, I'm so happy. I feel like whenever someone that I work with like gets married, I feel I'm like basically your coach mother. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. That's so cute. I love it. Okay, last question. Jen, I have one for you too, Jeff. So, but if you were to say to someone listening who's like skeptical or is like, I don't, why do I have to do that? Or other people don't have to do that. Why do I have to get help? Why do I have to invest in myself? Hire a coach, get photos, like take it seriously. If you could share what you know now, being on this part of the process, doing the whole thing, what would you say to someone who's listening?
I think it is totally worth your time and money to focus on what's important through the process, and to rather than just being out there guessing, like just throwing darts at a dartboard you can't see. I guess that's a good analogy, is by going through the Dating with Dignity course. It's like it gave me that dartboard that I could focus those specific things that I needed, to date online and to be more efficient with it. I mean, I was online for, I guess it was like a year and a half. Yeah, it was about a year and a half. And I would say I did kind of the process 3 times, because I did date someone for like not 8 or 9 months at one
Okay.
point too. So that was part of it. But I kind of did the whole like message a bunch of people and whittle it down. I would say 3 times. And I tell everybody this, I didn't go on a bad date. Like, I went out with nice guys who treated me nicely. I don't feel like I got duped by any of them. I think the process worked, and I don't regret any of the dates that I went on with that. And that was, now in hindsight, reassuring to me, because the process helped me whittle down to high quality guys that I went out with. And so I think it was worth it. And I think if I didn't do it, I might still be muddling around getting the responses, hey, how are you, with the R and the U and no punctuation. And it's like, if you see in my profile I'm a teacher, you're not going to write to me with no punctuation.
Oh, I love that's so good.
um,
And I also think it's important to say, because I do talk to a lot of people who are not, multi six-figure C-suite individuals, and they're like, I
not
don't know if I could work with you, I'm a whatever. And I really love that you're, a teacher, right? You're like a helping professional. You invested in it, you made it work for yourself, and we figured it out. And I think that's a really important thing, because this is totally doable for everyone. Okay, Jeff, same. So if you would sort of reflect on why you appreciate that Jen used this process and made herself really easy for you to find, how would you share that? Like, what was different for you, and what would you say to anyone listening?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, if you want to be serious, you need to find people that are taking it as serious as you. And being in a relationship is as serious as it gets. That's what part of, we talked about at the end of my marriage. Marriage is a serious relationship. It's not a joke. It's not like, oh, let's see if it works today, maybe it works tomorrow, maybe this that. It's a serious adult relationship. So if you're struggling finding serious adult relationships, you need to start taking it more seriously. It's that simple. And for me, it was, I probably wouldn't have been, 15 years ago, as open and honest, because maybe I wasn't looking for something as serious then. But being at my age now, out of a marriage that didn't work, it was, I wanted the most serious of serious people. And like Jen said, looking for from the guy side, for me on the women's side, it's just blatantly obvious people that are taking it seriously and people that aren't. It's just very, very obvious. And so if most of your listeners are women and they're struggling finding people, it's maybe it doesn't mean they're not taking it seriously, but Jen was someone who clearly was very specific about what she was looking for. And if you're trying to attract someone that hits all those, the more serious you take it, the better. So I'm glad she did.
Oh my gosh, so great. So when's the wedding, guys?
April 21st.
Yay!
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I feel like Vanessa Lachey right now, if you ever watch Love is Blind. And is that family imminent?
Yep. Yep. Everybody's on board. And we're actually going to do a very small ceremony locally for just family and closest friends at a really beautiful spot. And then we're having a food truck party at a local brewery.
Yay! That is so, I think that's so Jen, and I bet that's so Jen and Jeff. That's so super, super fun. I love
Yeah.
being a coach grandma. It's my favorite thing. It makes me so happy.
We're grateful.
And it's so, I think when you messaged me, I was talking with someone who was super skeptical, and she'd done all this work and she'd done Tony Robbins, she'd done this, and she was like, I don't know, why is this going to work? And it was very weird, but like this year, like around the holidays, I was just getting messages from people. Like, and I kept screenshotting it, being like, this is your future. This is your future. Just trust the process. So I couldn't be more excited for you and happy. And you were just always, I always say, I'm looking for committed and decisive, coachable and resourceful. And you are all those things. And you guys are just adorable. And I'm so happy that you found each other.
We are too. I'm
Yay!
so appreciative of the, like I said, I wanted to find direction. And I think after losing Tyke, my time became very valuable too. And so I was like, I could muddle through this for years, but I don't want to. So let me find somebody who's figured it out. Just like everything, there has to be someone who's figured out how to do this better. And I could figure it out on my own, or I can go right to that person or course or coach or whatever and use what they have figured out already to help me speed up this process. And that's exactly what I've got. And I'm so glad I did. And I never regretted any of the relationships I had or the dates I went on, because I feel like every one I went on, or every person I dated, I pulled some other piece out and like refined what I needed or what I was looking for. So, I spent 9 months with someone. Do I regret it? No, because he helped me learn those last little pieces, like I said. So then when I saw them in Jeff, it was almost like a sigh of relief. It was
Oh,
like, just this, like I let out this breath and I was like, okay, I feel like it's here. And so, but I needed to have that relationship to learn those things and
right.
to recognize it then when I did have it.
Yeah, right, because you don't know what you don't know until you're actually in action, which is why
Mm-hmm.
people need to get started. Last thing for sure, I do want to talk about before we go is, you're dating, you're a full-time teacher, you have all this stuff, and you made this decision to write a book about Tyke, and you published that. Can you just tell everyone about that journey and because I think I'm just so proud of you, and it's such an
Thank you.
important accomplishment.
Yeah, so Tyke was actually writing a memoir before he got his cancer diagnosis, because he was switching jobs actually to be a coach, personal coach as well. He was born with cystic fibrosis and had survived 2 double lung transplants in his life. And his second transplant was a living donor transplant from each of his sisters. They each donated a lobe of their lungs to him, and he was going on 14 years on that transplant, which is amazing. So he realized that he had survived and thrived through all of these medical issues his whole life, and he had learned strategies to deal with things. And he realized, oh, some of these, like, science is backing some of these things, like hypnosis and things like that. So he thought, I can teach other people how to do this. So his moniker was that he was the life tested coach. Like, he's like, I've
Mm.
lived these things and I've used these strategies. So he was in life coaching with using NLP. We went to Tony Robbins ourselves, things like that. Like I said, hypnosis. And he decided to write a memoir to kind of support that, to kind of show people how he had done that in his life. And he passed away before he was finished. He was finished writing it, but it was kind of in its like last rough draft stage. So I, off and on for about 5 years after he died, I would work on the book. I was kind of editing it. And then, ironically, the year just before COVID hit, the school year, I decided to take the next school year off to work on the book and edit it and finally get it published. And I was having trouble doing that as a teacher, and that, like, I just didn't have the energy or the mindset by the end of the workday. So I'm like, I'm going to take the year off. And I decided that in December, and then COVID hit in March. So I actually didn't teach that whole remote year, which was such a gift.
Right.
And I was dating someone who lived in a different state than me. And so it actually gave us a chance to be together for the year to kind of see, is this going to work out? So I worked on the book. I worked with an editor, and then I published the book on Tyke's 7th death anniversary, which 7 was an important number to us. So there was a lot of connection with that. And so it's called Hungry for Air is the book, and it's the story basically of Tyke's life growing up with CF and surviving his 2 lung transplants. The book ends basically a year after his second transplant, which was 2003. So it doesn't really go into his cancer diagnosis. That wasn't really part of it, but my prologue and epilogue kind of address that part. And the book is, I'm biased, but extremely inspirational for just beating the odds, for surviving what life throws at you. You know, it's not that if something happens to me, it's when. You know, we all have things that happen in our lives.
Right.
And not to diminish anything that's going on in anyone's life, but I think sometimes it puts it in perspective. It's like, wow, I could be like that, you know, and I'm not. So this bad day that I had where the mail was late or the trash can got knocked over, like, let's put it in perspective. It's not that big. And Tyke's motto was make each day count, because he knew every day was kind of not borrowed, but a gift. He knew every day was a gift. And so that's his line that we kind of take from him and we carry from him, is to make each day count, which is super important. And just, it helps you stay present, and it helps me remember too that today is a gift and tomorrow is not a promise. So I try and live like that, and not wait to do anything. And I have tons of widowed friends now that, yeah, I've heard like they just retired and then their husband gets sick or something like that. And it's like, we waited to do all our traveling till we were done working. And we don't want to live like that. Like, if we want to go do something, we want to try and put it in the plans, you know, in the short future and not the long future, because there's no guarantee that we're going to have that time. So that was an amazing process. Like I said before, I have this special gift that Tyke doesn't have any children. And usually when someone dies, like, all you're left is kind of the past. You're left
Right.
with the last memories of them and all of that. I have a gift from Tyke that can keep growing and giving. He can
Oh,
still continue to inspire people. He can still help people grow and learn, and just be more present and do better in their lives by having his book. So I feel very fortunate that I have this gift to give other people and to share his story with. And most people who read the book read it in 2 nights, I hear, because it at one point becomes a page turner and you just can't
right.
put it down. So, and then coupled with that, I have a short story published in a second book that is by a widowed friend, or she kind of put it together, and it's called Dinner for One. And it's stories of all widows or widowed people that don't have children. So when our person died, we were the only person. And so it's the title came from you're having dinner by yourself. So what was your
Yeah.
dinner by yourself? And for her, it was a cupcake and a beer, and for me, it was mac and cheese and cinnamon bread. And so I have a story published in that book just about that experience of not having those little people, that look like my spouse, with me. So
Oh, that's so amazing. So, and they're all on Amazon, by the
they are,
way. Tyke's book, Hungry for Air, Dinner for One. We'll have the links to everything in the show notes.
yeah.
Stories from widows without children. And then also you're working on your own story, Pure Haven.
That's not a story. That's a company I'm a consultant with. So, part of life, I feel like, unfortunately, these days is you can't get by without knowing someone with cancer or an autoimmune disease or something. And what a lot of people don't know is that the products we use daily in our life have toxins in them because the people making them don't care about us.
Right.
And so part of my goal is to help educate people and show them that there is a solution to that problem. And so Pure Haven is actually a company based out of Rhode Island. It was
Love it.
started originally by a teenager who couldn't find clean products to use because she had had reactions to ingredients and things. And we manufacture everything in house, and we have affidavits signed for all of our suppliers so that we know all of our ingredients are clean. And I had started to have my own reactions and went to an allergist and found out I was allergic to a bunch of contact things that were all chemicals and disgusting, and I don't want them in my body anyway. And I found this as a solution, and only 10% of cancer is genetic, which means 90% of it is caused by our environment.
Ugh.
And what we put on our bodies and in our homes and what we clean with is part of that. Like, you put on a lotion, the ingredients in that lotion can be in your bloodstream in 26 seconds. So then your body's got to detox that. So Pure Haven has been amazing. We use only their stuff in our house. I only use it in my classroom, and I would love to see a world without cancer. And this is part of it. It's my one little way of being able to do that is by sharing that with people and showing them that there is a solution to that problem of having toxic ingredients in our products.
I love Pure Haven. So we have this, that's amazing. I'm gonna get some of this stuff. This
Yes.
lotion and stuff. I'm all
Our
over it.
skincare is amazing.
Yeah, I'm in that all day long. Ladies, there's Jen's link, her as a Pure Haven rep
Mhm.
in the show notes. So check that out. I mean, it's just amazing.
And I'm happy to chat with anyone who has any interest in that. I use everything myself, but just just to know, a lot of people don't know. I mean, Tyke and I lived very clean lives, we thought. I didn't know that stuff I was still using had green labels. It had, greenwashing is the term for it. I thought it was the best, and then I turned it over and it had fragrance in it or PEGs or things like that. And a great thing about Jeff is as we start to spend time at each other's houses, I'm bringing over a few things, and he's like, okay, I'll use all that. So he uses all the skincare, he uses all of it, and he was right on board. And that also showed me that he was a really special guy, because he wasn't just like, that's another bottle of whatever. He's like, oh, what can this do? Okay, I'll wash my face with it too. So
Oh,
he's right on board with it, which is
I
awesome.
that's so great. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, you guys are like a power couple. So I'm super excited. I mean, forget Taylor and Kelsey. It's Jen and Jeff all day long. Ladies, you can find out more about Pure Haven. The link is in the show notes, purehaven.com/Jen Crowley. You can get Tyke's book, Hungry for Air, on Amazon. Again, show notes have the link. And then Dinner for One, Jen's essay on stories from widows without children. You are inspirational in so many ways. I always say, even when it's dark, life is happening for us, not to us. And I believe that your journey has been so tough and with so much challenge, but you have really impacted so many people in your journey. And now you get to pay it forward even more, giving women who are listening hope. And Jeff, and someone's gonna be like, oh, she was lucky. she's young, she's cute. It's not like that for me. And I'm just going to say, you know what? Jen is just one of the women that have gone through this process in her 40s. So do it in your 40s so that you're not coming back to me in your 50s or your 60s or your 70s. It's so great. Thank you. And I love that you brought Jeff on. Jeff, high five. Amazing. I mean, you set the bar really high. I might have to ask all my clients to bring their fiancés on now. And send me pics when you have babies, just saying. Ladies, okay. Oh my gosh, so many great tips in this episode. You can share it with a friend. You can re-listen. Remember, change the things you can. And there were so many very helpful tips and strategies in this episode. And then let me know about it. And of course, if you want help from me, MarnieBatista.com. You know where to find me. But in the meantime, remember, life is short. So life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone. And you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marnie, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marnie, and I'll see you next time.